The pre-dawn stillness over Buckingham Palace shattered at 5:47 a.m. on November the 27th, when a senior communications director walked into the media liaison office carrying a single-page document that would alter the royal landscape forever. Within seconds of reading it, every person in that room understood they were witnessing the end of an era. Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, would be stripped of all remaining institutional support, effective immediately. No gradual transition, no diplomatic phrasing. This was an ejection, swift and final. The reaction spread like wildfire. Newsrooms across London erupted into controlled chaos. In Washington, political analysts who'd been tracking the Epstein fallout suddenly had fresh material. One BBC correspondent captured the moment perfectly. This isn't damage control, this is amputation. And beyond the palace gates, early morning joggers and tourists began clustering, sensing that history was being made. For those who remembered Sarah as the vibrant young woman who once danced alongside Diana, this announcement felt like watching the final page of a story that should have ended differently. But let's be clear about something crucial. This decision wasn't born overnight from a single scandal. What unfolded this morning represents the culmination of years of mounting pressure, financial instability, political scrutiny, and an institution determined to shed its vulnerabilities. If you want to understand how this conclusion became inevitable, and what Sarah might do now that all bridges have been burned, you'll want to follow what happens next, because the stakes are higher than most people realise. To grasp why the monarchy moved with such force, we need to trace the warning signs that began surfacing years ago. When King Charles ascended the throne, he brought a governing vision his closest advisors had anticipated for decades. A leaner, more disciplined institution, with zero tolerance for reputational liabilities. Under Queen Elizabeth, Sarah enjoyed protective ambiguity. She attended family events, shared royal lodge with Andrew, and was treated with gentle indulgence. But Charles inherited a different world. Social media amplified every misstep, parliamentary oversight grew sharper, and the institution could no longer afford what one palace veteran described as sentimental exceptions. Sarah's position was uniquely vulnerable. She held no HRH designation. She performed no official duties. And unlike William, Catherine, or Anne, she represented a chapter of royal history the Crown desperately wanted to close. Inside Windsor, conversations about Royal Lodge had been circulating quietly for months. The property's upkeep costs had ballooned. Legal reviews questioned the sustainability of grace and favour residences for non-working royals. Without formal status, without institutional justification, Sarah existed in a legal and symbolic grey zone that modernisation efforts couldn't accommodate. Political pressure intensified everything. By late 2022, Westminster officials were quietly urging the monarchy to address lingering concerns tied to the Epstein scandal. Polls showed that older British viewers increasingly questioned why an ex-wife with no working role continued living on Crown property. The palace absorbed this data and recognised what it meant. Sarah had become a symbol of the very opacity Charles's reforms were designed to eliminate. The early signs of this reckoning appeared in subtle shifts that only royal insiders noticed. Catherine, whose role demanded constant awareness of institutional health, picked up on anomalies others dismissed. During a routine briefing in early 2023, she overheard staff discussing Windsor maintenance projections that had doubled unexpectedly. One aide mentioned the complication quietly. Sarah still residing there, still lacking formal status, still tethered to Andrew's diminishing relevance. When palace staff spoke with that kind of caution, it usually meant decisions were already forming behind closed doors. American polling data sharpened the concern. Among viewers over 50, a demographic that had followed Diana and Sarah's parallel journeys, nearly half expressed confusion about Sarah's living arrangements. When an older woman at a charity event asked Catherine, "Why does the Duchess still live in that grand home if she isn't working for the Crown?" Catherine offered a polite deflection. But internally, she recognised the problem had spread beyond palace walls into everyday public consciousness. By autumn, Catherine attended a private luncheon at Clarence House, where Princess Anne made one of her characteristically blunt observations. If the property becomes a liability, resolve it quickly. The institution can't carry everyone indefinitely. She didn't name Sarah. She didn't have to. Catherine left certain the conversation had moved from concern to action. Enter Queen Camilla, whose mornings were increasingly dominated by press summaries, highlighting a troubling pattern. American outlets weren't only focusing on Andrew anymore. They were asking pointed questions about Sarah. Why did she still occupy Crown property despite carrying reputational risks? The Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN all began framing the issue as a test of the monarchy's commitment to transparency. For an institution hyper-aware of its international image, this shift mattered profoundly. Camilla convened a closed-door meeting with senior crisis advisors. She opened with characteristic directness. Public patience is finite. So is institutional tolerance. The team reviewed amplified media coverage, rising mentions of Sarah's past association with Epstein, and revived congressional inquiries. Even British journalism now framed her presence at Royal Lodge as a contradiction within Charles's modernisation vision. Princess Anne joined subsequent discussions, practical and unflinching. We're attempting to streamline the monarchy, not drag historical baggage forward with us. William, briefed separately at Kensington Palace, echoed the sentiment with measured precision. During one particularly difficult meeting, he reportedly stated, "We cannot continue carrying burdens inconsistent with the future we're building." The most revealing insights came from communications analysts who presented data showing sharp increases in negative sentiment among American viewers over 50. This demographic was voicing frustration over the York family's unresolved controversies. To preserve its narrative abroad, the monarchy needed to draw clear boundaries at home. During one late strategy session, a junior communications staffer offered a piercing observation. "People aren't viewing this as royal drama. They're viewing it as a moral question. How much responsibility does an institution bear for those linked to it?" The room fell silent. Camilla and Charles reviewed the draft statement prepared by legal teams. The language was precise, restrained, deeply institutional. It didn't attack Sarah. It didn't reference specific scandals. But beneath its calm tone, anyone familiar with royal subtext understood its meaning. The crown was stepping away. Now, I'm genuinely curious about something, and I hope you'll share your thoughts below. From which part of the world are you watching this unfold? Your perspective matters because it reveals how this story resonates differently across cultures and continents. When 7:20 a.m. arrived on November the 27th, the palace statement went live. Concise, polished, irreversible. For Sarah, sitting at a writing desk in a quiet London hotel suite, the impact was immediate and crushing. She had relocated there days earlier, sensing something decisive was approaching. When the Buckingham Palace header appeared on her phone screen, she froze. She read the statement twice, as if the words might rearrange themselves. They didn't. What struck her first wasn't the loss of Royal Lodge. That had been foreshadowed for months. It was the tone, the formality, the absence of any warmth, the unmistakable message that the Crown had drawn a clean, unbridgeable line between Sarah Ferguson and the institution she once married into. In the monarchy's eyes, she was no longer part of its future. Across global newsrooms, analysts reacted with shock, tempered by grim recognition. The timing felt surgical. Andrew was being relocated to a smaller Sandringham property. The Epstein investigation was accelerating. Pressure from Parliament had reached unprecedented levels. For many observers, Sarah had become a liability the Crown could no longer afford to defend. But while the world dissected public fallout, something far more personal was unfolding privately. Beatrice and Eugenie reached out to their mother within minutes. According to sources close to the sisters, they were devastated but unsurprised. They had quietly prepared an escape route. Their property in Comporta had been readied. Staff arranged accommodations, local contacts secured privacy. This wasn't a vacation plan, it was a survival plan. Inside the palace, advisors felt relief and apprehension. Relief because a lingering dilemma had been resolved. Apprehension because Sarah remained unpredictable. Her financial instability made her vulnerable to book deals. Her long relationship with Andrew meant she possessed knowledge that could unsettle the monarchy if revealed. And her reputation as a woman who refused to disappear quietly made her next steps impossible to predict. For Sarah, the announcement wasn't merely institutional recalibration. It was a personal loss of gravity. She had lived her entire adult life tethered to the royal orbit. Now that tether had been severed. As the sun rose higher over London, Sarah realised her next chapter wouldn't begin in Britain. It would begin somewhere far away, beyond palace walls, beyond tabloid judgment, and beyond the life she once imagined would last forever. As November 27th drew to a close, viewers worldwide tried processing what Sarah's abrupt severing truly meant. In many ways, the story carried echoes of something universal, the moment when the past can no longer protect you and the future must be faced on new terms. Sarah's journey has always been full of contradictions, the exuberant outsider who charmed the public, the Duchess who weathered scandal after scandal, the woman who, despite setbacks, continued trying to reinvent herself. Yet when the palace drew its boundary today, it reminded the world that no amount of charm or nostalgia can override institutional priorities in an era where scrutiny is global and consequences immediate. Watching this unfold, I was reminded how quickly life turns when unresolved issues linger. Sarah's finances, her ties to Andrew, her association with controversies she never fully escaped. Each crack expanded slowly until the foundation could no longer hold. Problems don't disappear because we look away. They gather weight. And if we don't address them, they eventually decide the outcome for us. Yet there's another side to this moment. Sarah is beginning a new chapter, albeit under painful circumstances. Portugal may not have been her dream, but it offers distance, safety, and a chance to rebuild without the constant shadow of royal expectations. For a woman who's lived beneath harsh public glare, that might be its own kind of liberation. So here's what I genuinely want to know. Do you believe the palace made the right call in severing ties so decisively, or should they have found a way to protect Sarah despite the complications? And more provocatively, if Sarah decides to speak openly now that she has nothing left to lose, what do you think she might reveal? I genuinely read every comment, because these conversations shape how we all understand these complex moments. As we close this chapter, I'm left with a single thought. Power structures may define the rules, but individuals define their stories. Sarah Ferguson has been many things: controversial, resilient, unpredictable. But she has never been silent. And now that the palace has spoken, the world waits to see how she will respond, what she will reveal, and who she will become without the walls of Windsor to hold her. If you want to follow what happens when the monarchy's most unpredictable figure has nothing left to lose, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because the next phase of this story could be even more explosive than what we've witnessed today. Thank you for staying through this journey. The fall of a duchess isn't just a royal headline. It's a reminder of the delicate line between consequence and reinvention, and how each of us must eventually choose which side of that line we stand on.